morning, everyone. This is Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. This is our weekly COVID critters and coffee talk. The doc is in. Say hey if you're joining us. Love to hear from you guys. We'll be taking your questions too. Today, we're going to be talking about pain control in pets. So natural pain remedies. We're also going to be talking about what to look for in your dogs and cats and some of the subtle signs of disease and why that's so important as your pets get older. So first off, our COVID update. Thankfully, I don't have a lot to update on that front, especially with our pets. There's no new cases of COVID in our beloved cats and dogs, so that's fantastic. So still there's not any cross transfer back, no reverse zoonosis from pets to people. It's just, or sorry, there is reverse zoonosis from us to them, but it doesn't seem like it's causing them to get sick, so fantastic. All right, so let's get into probably what you're here for, which is some holistic natural remedies for your pets. So let's talk about what are some of the signs of pain. So who here has an older pet? I've been there. I've got one. You probably, I don't know if you can see her behind me right now, but we have two senior cats. And with cats especially, it can be really, really hard to see pain in a cat because they're really stoic. And we have to go back and think about why is that? And that's because if they were out in the wild, if they showed that they were weak, if they were sick, if they were hurt, they're gone, right? So both dogs and cats have developed this protective mechanism where they can't show that they're sick or weak or hurt. And so that makes it really hard for us to know if they're in pain. For us, we're vocal, right? We're like, ow, that hurts. Like we vocalize our pain most of the time and we actually say that we're in pain. With dogs and cats, if they're vocalizing in pain, they're in a lot of pain. A lot of times they're not actually making a noise. They're not crying out in pain. They're not yelping. So if you're seeing that in your pet, you definitely need to make sure you take them into the vet clinic and get them checked out because there's something serious going on. And so what are some of the subtle signs? So if you've ever had an older dog that hesitates to jump on the bed, to jump on the couch, to jump into the car, where I used to have a corgi growing up and he was older. He lived to be, I think it was like 14, 15 years old. And he used to like sit on the couch. And then he started doing the whole thing where he would back up and then go forward and then back up. And it was so cute, right? We're like, oh, look at Toby. He's so cute. And I was like, no, actually, he's in pain. Like he had osteoarthritis and inflamed joints and he was sore. And that's why he couldn't jump up right away. So if you're seeing that in your dog or your cat, that can be a sign of pain. And if they're older, it's probably osteoarthritis. It doesn't necessarily mean we don't have to go down like cancer pathways, things like that. But there's a lot we can do, which we'll get into in a second. Some of the other subtle signs that may happen is a change in behavior. So if you have a really social pet, so social dog, social cat, and all of a sudden they're not there, like they're hanging out by themselves and they don't want to join you, then that could be a sign of something going on. That can be a sign of a lot of things going on. So if you're seeing a behavior change, one of the common things that happens with cats and dogs as they get older is that they may actually turn slightly aggressive, like if they're touched in certain areas. So a dog with hip issues or a cat with hip issues, if they've been fine before with you petting them and then all of a sudden you're petting this area and they try to bite. So that could be something that is a sign of pain. For cats, so cats they sleep all day, right? That's what my cat behind me is doing now. She's getting ready for a 22-hour nap for the rest of the day. And so how can you tell if they're sleeping more? Because cats sleep. They sleep all day anyways. So with cats, like things that I notice, because one of our older cats, Taz, he has arthritis. I haven't even we just adopted him. He's sore around his hips. Like he doesn't tolerate acupuncture needles yet in that area. Like there's a lot of signs that he has probably some severe arthritis going on in his back and in his hips. And so what he does though, is he doesn't jump high. So if you're starting to see, like, cats like being up high, they sit on the backs of the sofa. If you have cat towers, they like to be up top. So if you're noticing these changes with your cats where all of a sudden they're like sitting on the ground, they're sitting lower, there could be something going on because it's painful for them. So what you can do is you can have like little, if you've seen those steps up onto a bed, if they sleep with you, or having little stations where they can jump up and then up and then up. So it makes it easier. It's kind of like a little makeshift ladder that they can get up, but those can be a sign of pain also. So those are a couple of things to look for. Some of the other changes that can happen too, changes in appetite. They just don't want to move. Or one of the more common things with dogs on walks that I hear all the time from clients is that they'll be walking and they're like, he just like pulls on the leash and he wants to sniff all the time. And I'm just like, come on, buddy, like, let's get going. And if they're starting to lag behind on walks and they're sniffing more, that could be a sign that they're like, my joints are actually kind of sore and I don't want to go as far. So that would be definitely a reason to take them in and get them checked out and have a veterinarian feel on all those joints, feel the range of motion, and see if there is something going on. So changes from the normal behavior. You know their normal behavior. You guys are all amazing pet parents and you're so in tune with your pets. So if you see something different, act on it, because there's so many things we can do. And yes, Saltwater Blonde, we are going to get to how to prevent osteoarthritis because that is really important. So I know a lot of you have younger pets, so younger cats, younger dogs. Maybe you adopted a new dog during the whole home quarantine, or a new cat, got a kitten, got a puppy, and you're like, I don't want my pets to develop osteoarthritis. They still may, like there can be normal degenerative changes as they age. We can't always prevent everything, like our bodies age. I know as I've gotten older, my body hurts more. I go for a run and my knee hurts and I'm like, oh, I'm not even that old. However, what can we do to decrease inflammation from forming, which also helps pets if they have inflammation? So that comes back down to diet, right? For feeding anti-inflammatory foods, we're feeding species appropriate foods for them. That's number one. That is always number one. It's just like us. You are what you eat. If you eat McDonald's every day, you're going to have a ton of inflammation in your body. So if we're feeding junk food to our pets, so if they're getting treats, just had a call with a client recently and they were talking about like, you know, they go and visit their parents and their parents feed them Cheetos. Like, no bueno. That is no good. Like, Cheetos aren't good for us. They're not good for your pets. Now, that's a short-term thing, not going to cause a lot of damage. But think about the things that your pets are getting on a consistent basis. Are those treats healthy for them? Maybe you substitute things like baby carrots, green beans, sugar snap peas. Right now is prime time for fresh vegetables. These are things that we can feed to our dogs to help reduce inflammation, increase antioxidants in their body. Vegetables are full of phytonutrients, which are really good for their immune health. So it does all sorts of things, not only reducing inflammation, but optimizing their health. So food is really, really important. Cats, if you have a cat, listen up. Because we talk a lot about dogs, and I want to make sure that the cat people are represented here. Cats need to get off kibble. Or if you're feeding like a kibble food, make sure that you're offering canned food if you have a hard time getting them off kibble. Because I know how that feels with my like most recently adopted cat. He's obsessed with kibble and he has kidney disease, heart issues. He has a low appetite anyways. So I hesitate transitioning him a little harder than I would say my other cat, Kiwi. So, but what we can do is we can get canned food into them, raw diets into cats. Cats are obligate carnivores. They cannot eat a vegan diet. I think I was asked a question from someone on here recently about, can cats eat vegan? No, they're obligate carnivores. Unfortunately, like we can't, if we eat that way, we can't feed our cats that way because they'll get really, really sick. So they actually need meat. They need organs. They need bones. They need all of that. That is how they are made. That is how they thrive. And so when we get cats off kibble, we get them off the high carbohydrate diet. Who here has ever had a cat where you put them on a weight loss plan and they were still being fed kibble. So maybe you even use the weight loss diets with the kibble diets that they have, and they didn't lose a freaking pound. So there's so much research that is starting to go into why cats are carbohydrate, like they have insulin resistance, like their whole metabolism is screwed up when they're fed dry food. And that's why they don't lose weight. It's so frustrating. So it's not just like a calorie in, calorie out type of thing with cats. And this is huge because a lot of cats that are overweight develop osteoarthritis later on. So if we can transition those cats to at least eating a majority of their diet as canned, wet food, or a raw diet, that's going to help them tremendously, because those carbs, they're inflammatory. They create inflammation in the body. And then also when they're heavier, so this is dogs, cats, people, when anything is overweight and has extra fat on them, it increases inflammation. Fat doesn't just sit there. It actually releases pro-inflammatory cytokines. Those are things that are released from the fat cells that stimulate the body and irritate everything else and create inflammation. So it's not only putting extra weight on the joints and on the body, it's creating inflammation. So number one thing, if we're worried about inflammation, osteoarthritis, pain in our pets, we need to get them lean. And it's really hard to tell if a pet is lean. We talk about body condition scoring all the time because it's so important. And it's the one thing that you can do at home to monitor your pet to see if they're at an ideal body weight. So weights are great. Like we'll say, oh, your pet needs to lose 10 pounds. Like that's a rough average. I can't give you an ideal body weight necessarily, but what I can tell you to do is body condition score your pet. So who here knows what body condition scoring is? I'm sure if you've listened to me before, you've heard this, you know what it means. But body condition scoring, so there's a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. And so we want our pets right in that mid-range. We want them around a 5. If your pet has osteoarthritis, we want them leaner. So sometimes even the 4 is key. So what you want to do is when your pet is standing, so this is key. When they're laying down, it's just like us, because like everything kind of goes everywhere and it's harder to feel, and you're like, they feel squishy, but they're not really. It's just like everything's kind of tucked up. They might actually be squishy, but do it when they're standing anyways. So when they're standing, you want to be able to see a nice tummy tuck from the side. So at their waist, their tummy goes up. And then at the top, when you're looking at them from the top down, a nice hourglass shape. So you want to see that nice curve. They need like that curvy figure, not the like straight back and table figure, like block. No, that's not good. We don't want that. But also when you run your hands along their sides, so along their ribs, it should feel like running your hand over the palm of your hand. So each little bump is where the ribs are. So there's fleshy covering, that's like the muscle and tissue. That's normal. You should be able to feel those little bumps where the ribs are. If they're squishy, like when you know what squishy is, like sometimes, you know, when you feel on yourself, you're like, I might be a little squishier from quarantine here. But when they're squishy, when you're feeling on them, they have too much weight. And so this is a great way to assess your pet and see if they're at an ideal body condition. Now, we can't just look at other pets because 60% of pets are overweight. So that's why I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, my pet looks good compared to the neighbor's pet. However, the neighbor's pet might be morbidly obese. So this is a great way. I recommend doing this at least once a month. This should be included with your nose to tail exam. Once a month, everyone, like get your hands on that pet and just feel them. You're feeling them anyways, but now what you're doing is your hands are all over everywhere looking for lumps, bumps, changes, increased tenderness. You're lifting those gums up. You're looking in the mouth. You're looking in the eyes. You're looking for any changes from normal, because when we find those changes sooner rather than later, before your pet knows that it's sick, a lot of times we can fix it and reverse it. So anyways, body condition score, lean body weight. Number 1, if your pet has osteoarthritis, if your pet has pain, if you want to maintain health and reduce the risk of osteoarthritis, protect those joints. Number 2, supplements. So supplements are a huge thing. And I recently did a blog post on how to analyze supplements. So check that out at thenaturalpetdoctor.com under our blog posts, because this is really important. The supplement industry is not regulated, not at all. And a lot of times what we find are those supplements have things in them they shouldn't. And when I say that, that means there can be adulterants, there can be contaminants, there can be, guess what, drugs, like actual drugs are put in there. And the reason why that happens is because the pet feels better now. Well, yeah, it's going to feel better if there's an anti-inflammatory drug in the supplement, right? And so we need to be careful with what supplements we're getting, what brands we're using, because anyone can make a supplement. And a lot of times what you'll see when you're looking at the back, so we need to learn how to read supplement labels, is when we look at the back and we're reading the label, a lot of times what you'll see is proprietary blend. And what that means is that we don't know what ingredients are in it. So let's say green lip mussel. I love green lip mussel for joints, joint health. It's a great anti-inflammatory. It's a great source of omega-3s. Like it's all in one. New Zealand green lip mussel. It's amazing. If you can get these fresh, where we used to be able to get them out of the ocean when I lived in New Zealand. I so miss it because it's such a great food source. It's a great nutraceutical. It helps our health. It helps our pets' health. However, let's say a company is saying this supplement has green lip mussel in it. You're like, that's fantastic. That's what I want for my pet. And then you turn it around and you're like, okay, there's like a couple other ingredients, but it says proprietary blend. What could have happened with that supplement is that, yes, it has like 0.01% green lip mussel in it, but it's not in a high enough concentration to be therapeutic, meaning it's effective for your pet. So we need to be more conscious and aware of what brands we're using, what these companies are putting in the supplements. Are there also, what are the fillers? So you're only allowed to put a certain amount of active ingredients into supplements, especially chews. And what they'll do is they'll fill it with fillers, right? Well, we need tasty things. So what are tasty things? Oh, we put in like sugars and corn oil and all sorts of other things. And what happens now is we have all these things that are fillers and they're creating more inflammation in the body now. Like we just counteracted everything that we were just trying to do. Like you're better off not even giving it. So a lot of money is wasted on supplements and it's hard, it's frustrating. And, you know, there's one of the things you can look for in the pet industry is the NASC label. And so that's the National Animal Supplement Council, and companies will apply to be a part of this company or regulation. So it's an industry regulated. They go in, they do full assessments of these companies that apply to ensure they're following certain guidelines and their products are stepping up to the levels that they need to be. So you can look for that NASC label. I talk about that in the blog post, so make sure you check that out. And you can also see I included a picture of the label so you know what it looks like when you see it on a brand. Now, there's a lot that goes into being a part of the NASC. So not every brand that doesn't have that label is a bad supplement. So it's just one thing to assess a supplement by in the pet industry. So definitely learn how to read those supplement labels. So a couple of the things that you want to look for, if we're treating pain, treating inflammation naturally, there's a couple real big powerhouses in pets that we can use. So curcumin is one that I absolutely love. I use it for inflammation. I use it as it has anti-cancer properties. There's all sorts of amazing things that come with curcumin. You've probably heard of golden paste. Who here's heard of golden paste before? So what that is it's turmeric. So the yellow spice that's in a lot of like Indian foods. They take that, they combine it with coconut oil to increase absorption because it does better with fats. It's absorbed. If you put it by itself, it does not absorb well into the body. And then a lot of times they'll add like things like pepper or other things, like especially like for people. And it just helps increase the absorption. But this is a really strong anti-inflammatory. Now, here's my disclaimer with turmeric. So with turmeric, The active compound is curcumin. So those are kind of the same things, but curcumin is the extract. And with curcumin, there's different types. There's warming types. There's ones that are more neutral in energy, and there's more cooling. So if we use the wrong type in your pet, and your pet stay like hot, inflamed, irritated, we can actually potentially make that condition more aggravated. And so there's a lot that goes into it. Now, the other thing with the golden paste that's a downside is when we're using turmeric, so a lot of people are like, oh, just add it to their food, right? This yellow paste that gets everywhere and stains everything. FYI, just be wary, like stains your hands, stains your pet's fur, stains your carpet. Like, it is very colorful. So that's why it's used as a food coloring also, a natural food coloring. However, you have to give a ton of it. Like, I'm talking about an amount so large that your pet will not eat it, because it's quite bitter. That's why it's anti-inflammatory. Usually with like herb supplements that are anti-inflammatory, they're bitter tasting. That's how it works in the body. And so with using turmeric by itself, we have it's limited. It's limited in its ability to work in the body. So that's why I use curcumin. So we're taking the extract, we're using it in a supplement form that's combined with fats that make it more bioavailable. So meaning that it's more utilized in the body and it's helping things a lot better than just using turmeric by itself. So one of the brands I use that I love is CurePro. So they're fantastic. If you're on our newsletter list, you saw the full script link to register as a patient, and you can order it directly through them. And you're getting like the pure CurePro brand that you can utilize for your pets. Now, when it's in form, like if you use a higher dosage or it's in forms like with black pepper, sometimes it can lead to diarrhea or loose stool. It can irritate the GI lining. So for pets, I tend to use forms that don't have like black pepper in it, because that can irritate the gut lining, and then we end up getting loose stool. But yeah, curcumin, amazing, especially for pets that have inflammation. And I've had pets that have come off non-steroidal, so things like carprofen and Remedies, by simply adding in CurePro into their protocol. It's fantastic. The other one is, I mentioned it earlier, is green lip mussel. And so this is an amazing nutraceutical. So it has glucosamine, chondroitin, omega-3 fatty acids in it. It has anti-inflammatory effects. It is just a powerhouse food, and a lot of supplements are starting to utilize that in. So VetraScience has a GlycoFlex product that has that in it, which I highly recommend. You can use that for your pets that already have inflammation. They also have, VetraScience has different stages. So for people who are worried about preventing, or if your pet's at like maybe a mild stage of this, then you can add in like the stage 1. If you have a pet that has severe inflammation and osteoarthritis, you're going to use like stage, I think it goes up to stage 3. So check that out. If you're in an area where you can add it into your pet's food, start adding that in. That'll be fantastic. So green lip mussels are great. The other one, so a step down from green lip mussel, would be your omega-3 fatty acids. So for pets that are especially on a kibble-based diet, the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is very important in our pets' bodies, dogs and cats. And a lot of times when they're on the kibble diet, well, actually 100% of the time on a kibble-based diet, there's usually a shift to higher omega-6s. Omega-6s play a part in health. Like, we can't get rid of them. There needs to be some of them. They play an important part in the body. However, what we can do is we can adjust the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s. Typically, we do that by adding in fresh food, changing to a fresh food diet, or transitioning to a raw food diet that's going to have more of like the organ meats. We're adding in things like sardines, we're adding in salmon, we're adding in your fishes, your fish, not fishes, that have your higher omega-3s. And what we're doing is we're switching that ratio to more predominantly omega-3s versus omega-6s. The other way that we can do this, so let's say for people that have to feed kibble, and that's fine, there's good kibble brands out there. But if your pet's on a kibble-based diet and you're like, how do I change that ratio then? start adding in sardines a couple times a week. So we can add in real food into that diet a couple times a week. It doesn't have to necessarily be an entire switch to a real food diet. And that's going to help raise that up. But we can also add in fish oils. So your omega-3 fatty acids, those are going to shift that ratio also. And there's quite a range of omega-3s that we can utilize in our pets. So Nordic Naturals, great brand. They have a pet brand that I absolutely love. Makes it super easy to dose based on your pet's body weight. Now, if you have a pet that has inflammation, so skin disease, they get like warm, moist lesions, they get gunky ears, things like that. A lot of times what we do is we start with a lower dose, or if they're prone to like GI upset, so diarrhea, loose stool, then what we do is we slowly increase the omega-3 fatty acids, because sometimes they can add to that, we call it dampness in Chinese medicine. It can add to the inflammation, dampness, and it can irritate it more. So then what we do is we look at, okay, why is the body like that? How do we fix that? So that way we can then start adding in those good omega-3s and help fulfill the needs of the body. Saltwater blonde, yes, that is correct. So canned sardines, you want to make sure there's no salt added. So you can definitely get these with water. That's what we use. They're at King Soopers. They're usually at your normal food stores. Also, wild caught. Very, very important. When we are using fish products, so salmon is the like most contaminated fish on this planet. Farm salmon, they feed, oh my gosh, it gets coloring, like there's so many things that go into it. Colorings, just junk is fed to it. We actually had a nephew, or we have a nephew who used to work on a salmon farm in New Zealand. And he's like, I won't eat salmon anymore. Like, that's really scary. I love salmon, but most people don't realize like that's like our food supply can be contaminated. So then what's happening is we're putting those chemicals, those contaminants into our pets' bodies, into our bodies, and it's creating more inflammation, and it can lead to things like allergies, other diseases, cancer. So definitely look for your wild caught. We need the fish to be wild caught. If you're using proteins, so beefs, chicken, other meats, I think I had someone ask, without any allergies, when feeding only raw, is it for any reason better to provide a single source of meat protein for fat loss, or does it not matter? So really quick before I answer that question, with meats, we want to be feeding, if you can, organic grass-fed. And the reason why is when we think about like our animals, especially in the US, like we have the food industry is so messed up. So animals, they need grass, right? But what do? We feed them grains, we feed them corn, we feed them GMO foods, and that's not their natural diet. And what's happening is those products, those food products we're feeding to those animals have a lot of chemicals, pesticides. Those are all sprayed on that food. And now we're feeding it into our pets, or sorry, into those animals, those cattle, sheep, whatever we're using that goes into the pet food. And now our pets are eating that. And so that's not even including growth hormones, all the antibiotics that are injected. Like, it's crazy. Like the chicken industry, like all the things that go in there, like there's antibiotics that are just put in the food. And it's because they're the way that they're farmed intensively to keep them alive and keep them from getting sick. But now those foods are contaminated with that, and we're putting it into our pets. So it's another source of potential inflammation. So if you can feed organic, grass-fed, free range, definitely do it. It will benefit your pet's health. It'll benefit your health too. And it'll keep the vet bills down over the long run. It might be more expensive up front at first, but in the long run, it'll be cheaper, I promise. So in terms of, let me go back to that question by Aaron. So you definitely don't want to necessarily only feed a single source of meat protein. So when we're talking about like raw food and just making your own food in general, we talk a lot about home cooked diets, making sure that they're balanced. So different meats are going to have different vitamins and minerals in them, just like our vegetables. And the way everything is farmed and made right now, we have a lot of soil depletion. So vitamins and minerals are lacking in a lot of foods. And so that's why we want to rotate the different meats, organ meats that we use, because we want to make sure that we're boosting certain vitamins and minerals that might be lacking in that food. Now, this goes along with if you're feeding kibble. Like, I highly recommend changing brands, changing protein sources. Now, if your pet has allergies, this is very different. So this is a pet that has like no skin allergies, no food allergies. They're healthy, they're fine. Rotate your foods, because especially with dry food, the way it's formulated to meet minimum requirements. That is not optimum requirements. And so by rotating those, you're going to hopefully avoid your pet having a mineral or vitamin deficiency. I hope that makes sense. So like rotating is actually really good. It can be a problem though if we're dealing with food sensitivities, itchy skin, things like that, where we're trying to work out, okay, what is this pet sensitive to? But otherwise, please rotate meats, vegetables, kibble diets, canned foods, utilizing some different, like the canned sardines, adding those in, adding in canned pumpkin, utilizing eggs. Those are really, really important, and they're going to help also reduce inflammation. Remember, like everything we talk about, even if I don't directly say inflammation, everything that we're doing is looking at optimizing your pet's immune health, body, to avoid hopefully disease down the road. So back to supplements on that round trip adventure that we just went down. So we have our curcumin, we have green lip mussels, we have fish oils. So also glucosamine chondroitin. So we'll see that in a lot of products, like Cosequin is a common brand. That's a good brand. Those are really good for supporting the joint health. They can also reduce inflammation if it's present in the joint. It's going to support the cartilage. So all the things that are in that joint that need to be supported. So those are really good also to add in, especially if you have an older pet. So when I say older, so senior pets are technically, for dogs, 7 years and older. Cats, it can vary. Typically, if they're 7 to 10 years, we're like in that, like they're entering the senior phase. So you have a dog that's 7, they're a senior. Little dogs, so small dogs, so like Jack Russells, your dogs that are like less than 25 pounds, they live longer. So they might live to be 15, 20 years old. Our older dogs, our bigger dogs, so German Shepherds, your Great Danes, the bigger they get, they usually don't live as long. So like Great Danes, typically like life expectancy 8, 9 years. I mean, I have clients who have pets that live to be in 12 to 15 years, which is awesome. And it comes down to like what we're doing. It also genes will play a small part, but also what environment are they in? What toxins are they being exposed to? But keep in mind, like we want to be more proactive when they're younger. Preventative is key. We tend to forget that. So think about ourselves when we're talking about preventative medicine. So this is huge, and this is big for preventing osteoarthritis, is the things that we do now for our younger pets are definitely going to help them in the future. So looking at diet, do a deep dive into your pet's nutrition, turn that bag around and see what's in it. If it's grain-free, is it full of pea protein and pea fiber and all those things that actually may lead to other health problems down the road? Because now what we did is we replaced grains with a cheap filler. So turn that bag around, take a look. Our potatoes, legumes, pea, protein, fiber within the first 5 ingredients of that food? If it is, you need to get your pet off that brand, and you need to register for our free webinar on June 30th so that you can hear why and how to analyze that ingredient label deeper. So make sure you register thenaturalpetdoctor.com for that free webinar, because everyone needs to know about this. There's heart disease that can be related to this, but there's also good grain-free foods. And some pets do better on grain-free foods. There's a lot of things where grains can cause increased zonulin and leaky gut and other things. So it's not just like, we can't label everything as grain-free as bad. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about how that can lead to inflammation and why there is a correlation with some of these diets and what the pet food industry is doing. So that way you can go home, look at the ingredient label and go, I feel good feeding this to my pet, and I know it's going to help them. Because people are confused. It is so confusing. There's so much information out there telling you one thing and then another person's telling you something different. So let's look at what the actual studies are and what's actually happening. So to sum it up, anyone else have any questions about inflammation in general in their pets, preventing osteoarthritis? So to summarize, we need to keep our pets lean. Number one, if your pet is overweight, do your body condition score at least once a month along with that nose to tail exam. If they're overweight, they need to lose that weight. Number one, it will make the biggest difference for your pet's health and if they are painful and if they have osteoarthritis. Number two, looking at their diet. Are they on an appropriate diet for them, for their age, for any of the diseases that they have, to optimize their health and wellness? If you need help with that, reach out. We do nutritional plans. More than happy to help guide you so that you feel comfortable and you know that what you're feeding is helping your pet. And then three, your supplements. There are a lot more supplements than what I recommended. There's definitely not enough time to go through those right now in this short video. However, check out our blog posts. There's all sorts of information. Check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of information also. Our YouTube channel also has, I believe it's an hour free webinar on natural pain care for your pets. You are welcome. Take a look at that. If you want extra help, if your pet's really got a lot going on, reach out. We do phone consultations. More than happy to help. So you've got your curcumin, so your Cura Pro brand. Check out Full Script. You can register there, join our weekly newsletter to get access to that. Two, your omega-3 fatty acids, so your fish oils, also your green lip mussels are included with that, and then also your glucosamine chondroitins. So some of the good brands, so we've got our VetraScience, check that out, your Glycoflex, your Cura Pro, your Nordic Naturals omega-3 fatty acids, and then also Cosequin. So those are just a couple. There are so many good brands. There's also a lot of really bad brands. So check out the blog post on supplements. And then of course, Dr. Wright. So Stella and Chewy Raw Blend. Yes, Stella and Chewy is one of the brands that I really love. And they have an assortment all the way from like kibble to pure raw. And they also have treats that you can use. I believe it was Stella and Chewy's. One of like Primal or Stella and Chewy's, they have like the raw turkey necks that you can use as treats for your dogs. So it helps their dental health and it's a great source of nutrients, calcium. A lot of pets are lacking in calcium. So those are great options. So definitely thank you for mentioning that brand. So check out our YouTube site. We have that free webinar on natural pet remedies. Also, we have pet memberships. We have all sorts of everything for everyone just to help you navigate the holistic arena that can be integrated into conventional medicine. I'm doing conventional for 10 years. And the great thing that I love is that we can integrate this amazing world of Eastern medicine into conventional medicine, and we achieve much better results and outcomes for your pets' overall immune health and body health to keep them healthier for longer, or treat diseases that might have limitations or severe side effects from treating with only a conventional side. So if you need help, reach out. Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor. You can send me an email at katie@thenaturalpetdoctor.com. Check out our website, thenaturalpetdoctor.com. Super easy to remember, and you'll find lots of free resources. So join us next week. So 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for our weekly Doc is in Talk, and look forward to seeing you guys there. Have a fantastic weekend and take care. Thanks again.
Hey pet parents, it's Dr. Katie. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, can you do me 2 simple favors? Number 1, share it with someone else. And number 2, subscribe to this channel by clicking down below so you can continue to get updates every time I release new videos to help your pet thrive. Also, if you're wondering how your pet can achieve optimal health and listening to our videos made you wonder if this can work for your pet, we have an amazing membership site that can really help your pet thrive naturally by being a part of our incredible community of pet parents like yourself. Maybe you're here because you're tired of not having other options to help your pet live their best life and feel amazing. Or maybe you're here because you feel alone in figuring out how to help your pet holistically. Let's partner together today and take the worry out of caring for your pet so you have many more days to share the joy and love with them. Click the link below to grab a 2-week free trial on our Healthy Paws membership. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. Until then, remember you're not alone in helping your pet thrive naturally and live each day to their fullest potential.